Hey guys, how are you today? Quick rant before we dive into today's chaos. As some of you might have noticed, YouTube's algorithm has decided I'm not special anymore. Shocking, I know. So now if you don't like, comment, or do a little backflip in the algorithm's honor, this video might just vanish into the void, never to be seen again. Seriously though, even a hi or "this is wild" in the comments helps way more than you think. It tells YouTube, hey, people actually like this channel. Maybe don't hide it from everyone. That can really help push my videos out to a wider audience, not just to my subscribers. So if you enjoy these stories and want to support the channel, that's the best way to do it. Now grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the drama. You won't want to miss this one. So, my brother-in-law recently filed for a divorce from my sister because he caught her cheating on him with one of his friends. She had been acting suspiciously for quite some time, and he decided to go through her phone one night, and that was it. He moved out and filed for divorce. Unfortunately, it happened at a really bad time for me, because he found out just a little over a week before my wedding. By the time he filed for divorce, there were just 7 days to go until the big day. Ideally, it shouldn't have affected my wedding at all, because it's not like my sister and I are particularly close. But my parents decided to ask me to postpone my wedding for a whole year, since my wedding would be really upsetting for my innocent sister. I can't explain why they think she's innocent, because she was literally caught exchanging incriminating texts with her husband's friend. And from what I know, there's proof of it. They think it was just harmless flirting and that everyone does it, so it's not a big deal. From what I've learned, they had been planning to meet up a couple of times, but it kept falling through, probably because my sister's courage failed her. But whether she actually went out with him or not didn't matter. The planning itself was bad enough. I think my brother-in-law is doing the right thing by getting a divorce. In my opinion, she's not innocent in the slightest. My parents don't see it that way because, for them, my sister can never do anything wrong. That's why they had the audacity to ask me to push back my wedding by a year, just so it wouldn't upset her, even though everything had been paid for and all the arrangements had been made. It would have cost us a bomb to cancel everything. We weren't even considering it, and when we made that clear, my parents started threatening us and said they would not attend if we went ahead. My husband and I told them it really didn't matter if they attended or not. To be honest, I'm not very close with my family. They were invited as normal guests. They weren't going to get any special treatment just because we're related by blood. Especially since all my life, I've never received any special treatment from them. In fact, they never even treated me as well as they treated my sister. So I went ahead with my wedding. Now my parents are freaking out at me because they think I lied by not telling them who my in-laws actually are. For context, my husband's family owns a pharmaceutical company and they are quite wealthy. Most of the family is involved in the business, including my husband. I kept all of this a secret from my family on purpose because, let's just say, they're not the kind of people I'd want around wealthy relatives. My parents own a hardware store that has never done particularly well. It gives them just enough to live on, but never more. I guess that's why they act like they do around anybody in a higher tax bracket. They turn into the biggest weirdos and start groveling, hoping maybe someone will invest in their business. They've always been looking for people to help them grow. It never works. It just makes people feel weird and uncomfortable because they make it so obvious. These rich folks aren't fools who'll fall for their flattery. I've seen them try this with other people, relatives or friends at events, and it makes everyone uncomfortable. I used to be embarrassed and ashamed to be associated with them whenever they started brown-nosing, because I could tell people were judging not only my parents, but also me. My sister would join in occasionally. I absolutely did not want the same thing happening with my husband and his family. So when our families met, I made sure everyone kept their job descriptions low-key. The second my parents realized what a huge company my in-laws were part of, they'd switch on the charm and start flattering them in hopes of getting something. My husband and I have been together for 3 years. He knows how to behave around my parents and always made it sound like he was just an employee, so my parents treated him normally. My family doesn't take much interest in my life. They met my husband's family only once, when we got engaged. While making small talk, my husband's parents downplayed their roles in the company. Since a pharmaceutical company has nothing to do with my parents' line of work, They probably didn't make the connection, even after knowing their last names, so we were safe. However, after our wedding, photos made their way to my parents because my husband's relatives reposted them, and someone put a post up on the official company social media account too. That's how my parents found out which family I had married into. The very same night, they started texting and calling to confront me because they felt cheated. In their opinion, I should have been upfront about the kind of family I was marrying into, but I misled them into thinking my husband and in-laws were just normal people. By skipping my wedding, they claimed, they lost a huge opportunity to network, become friends with my in-laws, and find business opportunities. They accused me of lying about how important my husband and in-laws are to the company. From the looks of it, if the wedding was significant enough to be posted on the company profile, my in-laws must be pretty important. They finally made the connection by Googling their last names and learned it's a family business. They were upset because I had deprived them of business opportunities on purpose and betrayed them. For the first couple of days after my wedding, I didn't respond. I wanted to enjoy the newlywed phase. I could no longer ignore them when they showed up at my house 2 days ago, demanding answers. My husband and I made it clear we didn't owe them any. We only invited them in to be polite. If they expected an explanation or an apology, they were wasting their time. After hearing us out, they launched into emotional manipulation. They were visibly upset. My mother even started crying. I tried not to let it get to me, but it was hard. They brought up how they raised me and expected things from me. Initially, I had no intention of arguing. I was just going to let them speak. But when they started saying they'd always tried to be good parents to me, and this is how I repaid them, I called them out. As far as I remember, they were good parents to my sister. For me, they did the bare minimum. We argued back and forth. Ultimately, they said they were disappointed that I had cheated them out of an opportunity to become closer with such successful business people. They claimed my efforts to hide my husband's family showed how embarrassed I was of them. They said even if they had attended the wedding, it wouldn't have made a difference because I'm ashamed of where I come from. They pointed out that even our engagement was private and intimate, so people wouldn't get to know. These accusations didn't sit right with me because they weren't true. I'm not ashamed of not coming from a rich family like my husband does. I'm ashamed of how my parents act around rich people. That's what's embarrassing. I tried to explain, but they wouldn't listen. They said my being embarrassed by them was enough reason to be upset, and the fact that I was defending myself instead of apologizing showed they never mattered to me. Their victim mindset got under my skin, and I lost my temper. I told them to get out of my house. I didn't owe them anything, not even an explanation. It was a mistake to invite them in, hoping for a civilized discussion. Before leaving, my mother, still crying, told me I'd always been ashamed of my family and thought I was too good for everyone. And now it was just coming to the surface. She accused me of being as shallow and pretentious as I claimed they were, but with a superiority complex. They told me they regretted not attending the wedding, but more than that, they regretted wasting their time trying to talk to me, since it's so clear family never mattered to me. So now I'm wondering, am I an idiot for never properly introducing my parents to my in-laws? Not the a-hole. OP's parents sound exhausting. They literally asked OP to postpone her paid-for wedding for a year because her cheating sister might be sad watching someone else get married. That's delusional. And now they're mad because they missed out on schmoozing rich people. OP made the right call keeping her in-laws' status quiet. OP's parents sound like the kind who would embarrass you publicly just to fish for business deals. And now let's hear community's opinion. Classic favoritism. Your sister cheats, and somehow you're the one expected to rearrange your life around her healing. Then your parents skip your wedding and still try to make it about them after the fact. You're not ashamed of where you come from. You're just tired of being dragged down by people who have no shame. They're not mad you lied. They're mad they lost a networking opportunity. If they'd really cared about you, they would have been at your wedding no matter what. The moment they found out your husband's family is well off, they suddenly care. That says everything. You owe them nothing, and I guarantee your in-laws respect you more for setting boundaries. The audacity of skipping your wedding and then acting betrayed because they didn't get to cozy up to your husband's rich family is wild. They basically said the quiet part out loud. They value status more than relationships. You're 100% right to distance yourself. If anything, your in-laws probably dodged an uncomfortable lifetime of forced business dinners. Update 1. Hey everyone, thank you so much for the love, comments, and advice. Before the update, some context. I said I'm not particularly close to my family, and that doesn't just include my parents and sister. I mean most of my family. The only people invited to my wedding were a couple of cousins and a few aunts and uncles I get along with. They didn't breathe a word about who my in-laws were, even though they knew, because they understood exactly why I didn't want my parents to know. They respected that. So, I had very few people from my side at the wedding, which is why keeping things private wasn't a big deal anyway. As for dealing with my parents now, per your advice, we've decided to cut all ties. We don't need this negativity. I don't owe them answers. They chose to skip my wedding to stand by my sister while she was getting divorced for her own fault. And now they can live with the consequences. My husband and I are leaving for our honeymoon in a couple of days. When we come back, we're moving into a new house. A wedding gift from my in-laws. It was a total surprise, but perfect timing. We'll make sure my parents don't get our new address. For a while, we'll only share it with a couple of close friends. My in-laws have been incredibly supportive about everything with my family. After they learned my parents had shown up at our place, they even offered to take down the company's wedding post, since that's where the problem started. But this isn't their fault. I'm proud to be part of this family, not because they're rich, but because they're genuinely good people, which is rare. I didn't see the point in taking the post down. It would cause gossip, and I don't want my parents thinking they're so important that we had to remove it. They kept texting and calling, but yesterday I blocked them, and my sister too, because I knew my parents would try to use her to reach me. For those asking, my sister wasn't at the wedding either. We've never been close. She was always a bit of a brat, and as we grew up, we drifted apart. She'd been invited, but once the divorce was filed, I guess she decided not to show. I was fine with that. What I wasn't fine with was my parents demanding I push my wedding back an entire year just because she was getting divorced, especially when she cheated. I don't know if she put them up to it, but regardless, she'd always take their side. I'm in touch only with the few relatives who attended, and I've asked them to loop me in if my parents do anything that concerns me. So far, nothing. But I can never be too sure. They'll try to make me look like the bad guy. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that nothing happens while I'm on vacation. I'd hate for them to ruin something I've planned and looked forward to for months. I know expecting them to stay quiet for 2 weeks is a lot, but hopefully they won't do anything. Update 2. We got back from our honeymoon a couple of days ago. While we were away, my parents didn't try anything, but I guess that's because they were waiting for us. This morning, my mother-in-law called, sounding worried, and told us to come over. Apparently, my parents had shown up at their house. I don't know how they found the address. My in-laws are private, but they have their ways. Worse, my parents showed up to talk about me, saying that as the grown-ups of the family, everyone needed to discuss how disappointing our behavior had been, so we wouldn't repeat it. We rushed over. My parents were seated comfortably in the living room, like it was their own home, being overly friendly and making everyone uncomfortable. Classic behavior. Since everyone had stayed civil so far, I tried to keep calm, even though I was furious. I told my parents it was not okay to show up at my in-laws' house about an issue that didn't involve them. If they wanted to talk to me, they could have talked to me at my home. But they said they'd tried that and it didn't work, and they knew we'd show up if they went to my in-laws. It pains me to admit it, but they were right about that. Still, if I don't want to speak to them, they need to respect that, especially given the circumstances. They've always put me second and didn't even attend my wedding. It takes audacity to try to make me the bad guy here. They wanted to sort this out as a family. I told them, as politely as I could, that I wasn't interested in sorting anything out right now. I needed space. They turned to my in-laws and started saying things like, "This is what we mean. This is what we have to deal with," trying to triangulate. Luckily, my in-laws immediately came to my defense and told them that if I needed space, I had my reasons. And instead of forcing themselves on me, my parents should respect my boundaries. My parents were shocked. They didn't expect my in-laws to side with me so openly. My in-laws told them they had waited for us and tried to be civil. But now that we were there, they wanted to be clear. I hadn't done anything wrong. Now that I'm part of their family, they'll support me wholeheartedly. If I choose not to have a relationship with my parents, they'll respect that and expect my parents to do the same. My parents, clearly not expecting this, left abruptly, muttering under their breath. After they left, we talked with my in-laws. They said my parents had been clingy and weird, no surprise, and tried to turn them against me. It didn't work because my in-laws already knew the truth. We left hoping my parents learned a lesson, because the whole thing was embarrassing. Update 3. It's been 3 weeks since my parents tried to recruit my in-laws. Nothing happened, until this morning, when my sister reached out. We're in the middle of moving houses, so I'd missed a bunch of calls from an unknown number, probably a burner, and countless messages. It was her, telling me to pick up so she could talk about how I'm treating our parents, that I'm breaking the family apart, and that our parents have been miserable ever since I humiliated them. I texted back that none of this is my fault, and that if they think it is, they're delusional. I reminded her, our parents skipped my wedding by choice for her sake. They went to my in-laws' place and got themselves humiliated. Not my problem. She sent a long message saying I made them unhappy, that they're already having a hard time dealing with her divorce, even though she didn't really cheat, and I'm adding to their pain. She called me heartless and selfish. I told her our family needs a serious lesson in accountability, and that I'm glad they're facing consequences. I added that she, especially, needed to learn that. She got upset, started cursing me out by text, and that was my cue to block the number. I'm done. I won't be responding to any of them again. I've said everything I needed to say. Update 4. It's been almost a year since I got married, and I wanted to post a little update. I haven't been in touch with my parents since we moved, and it's been a relief. I also figured out who had been feeding them information about me back then. A cousin who was talking to my sister and fancied themselves a peacemaker. I've cut them off too. That's what reminded me to update here. Apparently, that cousin is very close to my sister and couldn't help themselves because they thought they were helping the family reconcile. Anyway, we don't speak to that cousin anymore, and we have nothing to do with my family, apart from a few people I trust. From what I know, my sister moved to another city a couple of months after her divorce was finalized. My parents sold their store and moved with her to start something new. Honestly, I wish them all the best, mostly so they stay out of my hair. I'm not sure how long I'll be able to keep them from reaching out, because my husband and I are planning to start a family, and I'm sure once I announce a pregnancy, they'll try to come back. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. For now, we're just planning. My husband and I recently celebrated our first anniversary. We're happy and looking forward to becoming parents soon.